All right, I'm back. I always say I'm back. I haven't uploaded in like a month, but there's a reason for that. There's a reason for that because I feel like I've been processing so much, specifically from an experience that has changed my life, has completely changed my life. And I want to talk about that experience. Jeez, where do I start? Well, as a lot of you know, just from my last couple videos on this channel, I have been microdosing, taking psychedelics. And by the way, if anybody comments below this video and they're like trying to sell them, just report them. I have to delete so many comments. Just report them or delete them or whatever. But I've been using psychedelics to microdosing on mushrooms, psilocybin, whatever you want to call it, to help heal from trauma, but it's also been helping heal from Lyme disease. And I'll post another update video on my blood work because I talked about blood work and how it did get better from microdosing and psychedelics. I just went to the doctor for the blood draw 2 days ago, and I have the appointment coming up this next week, so I'll be able to give you all another update on that. But this, oh man, it's a lot. It's a lot. So, of course, I've been microdosing, and it's been life-changing. The things that have come up have just, I don't even know. It's like the psychedelics, the repressed emotions will not stay repressed when you take psychedelics. All that stuff comes up, stuff that you thought you buried, stuff that you repressed, stuff that you ignore. It all just comes to the surface, and you have to deal with it. It kind of reminded me, I watched this little docu-series this morning, and it was talking about Wim Hof, and something that Wim Hof does is essentially, he didn't say this, but essentially he puts himself in a really stressful state, and that trains, it's like he willingly does it, and that trains his body to adapt to stress and sickness and all that good stuff, terrible stuff. But it's healing. You can activate your autonomic nervous system in order to heal and better adapt your body to stress and diseases and things like that. So I bring that up because basically psychedelics for me and microdosing has been along the lines of like putting myself in many stressed out states, because I think the reason I didn't take it for the longest time, well, I've talked about the reasons. One being I didn't want to have an experience and then see something and start to believe something, but then like always look back and be like, oh, it was just the psychedelics, I was just hallucinating. So I didn't do it for the longest time for that, but I think there was also something that I was repressing where I didn't want to give up control. And that was like one of the biggest things for me that I realized, like as soon as I started taking them. I mean, I was like the smallest microdoses, and I still like, I would kind of elicit that really stressed out, panic, anxiety-ridden state. But once I got in a safe place, for me that was outdoors, taking a walk, because safety is like, that's where healing takes place for trauma, chronic whatever illness. A safe place. You can't heal unless you feel safe. So I took psychedelics a couple times and I didn't feel safe, and then I found that safe place for myself, which was outside, and that is when all of the stuff started coming up, and it was a lot, and I've talked about some of it on here. And I've slowly been building up the microdose. I'm slowly getting to like the dosage where it would technically be a trip, but it's a higher microdose, if you will. And I was using this specific strand. They were like blue. I forget what they were called exactly, but then I started using this other strand, and it's called Golden Teacher. I don't know if that means anything to you all listening to this, but they're literally golden. They're golden mushrooms, and they've been said to be specific for like shadow work and trauma work and internal work. And so I started using that strand, and I went up in dosage, and it's a more potent, like powerful strand. So I started taking that, and then I moved up in dosage. So it was like, if I was taking the other strand, it probably would have been double or triple, but I took this dosage and then went up, to kind of what I was doing, but it was still more potent. Started doing that, and then, so this, okay, here is the experience, right? This is the experience. So I was like gearing up to take, technically, like with the more powerful strand, the biggest microdose that I've taken. And even before I took the dosage, I started to panic and I started to cry, like tears, because I knew that whatever was about to come up was going to be extremely healing, was going to be extremely life-changing. I can't even explain it. But even before I took them, I just started crying because I was like, I know something is going to come up. This is terrifying. So I took the dosage, took the microdose, and immediately went into like extreme panic. Now, when I have felt this amount of panic before, it's typically been followed by me rushing to the ER because I'm like, I'm gonna die. I am in so much panic right now, so much anxiety. But I knew from a past experience, I'm not gonna tell that story, but it didn't have to do with psychedelics. It had to do with gummies, weed, THC stuff. The shortened version is I took way too much and I couldn't feel my entire body. And I legitimately thought that I was dying. And I went to the ER, and the person that I was with was like, I think you're just high. And I was like, oh. So I kind of had a flashback to that experience, and I was like, okay, I know this is the psilocybin. I know that this is, the psychedelics in my system. I'm not dying. I know what this is because I felt it before. So, but it still didn't really help the panic, because I was like, I had to sit down. I was like pacing. I mean, extreme panic and anxiety. And then I like, it helps to like look out my window at like trees and nature. It makes me feel more grounded. And I looked out at out my kitchen window, and I was like, okay, why am I having this panic? Why I stopped like looking at the fear as this, like, when is this going to be over? And I started looking at fear as a teacher, and that it was trying to tell me something. And so I was feeling the fear and panic and anxiety, and I was like, okay, why am I feeling this? I know the reason I'm feeling this. It's the, psychoactive whatever, and it's bringing up stuff, but like, why am I not, chilling out? Like, what is going on, basically? And the thing that came up is like, I want to have control. I'm like, I feel completely out of control right now, and I need to have control. And that's what was fueling the panic and anxiety. I was like, I need to have control. I'm losing control, and I don't have control, and I need control. And that was like the negative feedback loop, that it was like, okay, I gave control, and then I'm losing control, but I want control. And it was like, it was this push and pull that was just created this negative feedback loop of just fear and panic and anxiety. And so I was like, okay, I'm fighting for control, but I'm clearly out of control. So how do I like gain back control? And then I realized that I don't have control. I actually have to give up control in order to feel a sense of control. So I just and this can be like misinterpreted as I just gave into the panic and anxiety. That's not at all what I'm talking about. I gave up control by trying to escape something that I couldn't escape, aka the high feeling, the feelings that were coming up. I instead of running from it and just like screw it, I'm just gonna keep running. And that was my way of giving up control, because I think that can be how it's interpreted by a lot of people. But I gave up control, like, no, I'm gonna face this. And I just started breathing through it, and was like, okay, I am giving up control. I'm totally giving up control. And by doing that, I realized that it was only by giving up control that I started to not only gain control back, but I started to see how much control I don't have. It was like I started to just see everything that I have no control over that I've tried to control my entire life. And it was just like flashback after flashback of things that like, oh my gosh, this control is what has caused so much fear and anxiety. And even when it came to Lyme disease, like I think I've dealt with like PTSD when it comes to chronic illness and Lyme disease, because it's just like so much. Like I came from a time years ago when I was afraid to eat food, I was afraid to sleep, I was afraid to exercise, I was afraid to breathe. And I just kind of learned to live in that state, but nothing really changed. And so I feel like this was like the catalyst for that change. And I realized all of this fear and panic and anxiety has come from me trying to gain control over something. And I wasn't giving myself any grace when it came to chronic illness and that kind of stuff. Because even getting Lyme disease, I had no control over that. I had absolutely no control over that. And I think a lot of the fear and panic and anxiety was me being like, oh, like almost beating myself up. Like, what could I have done better? Could I have done anything better? And that was like fueling the fear and panic and anxiety. It's like that living in the past thing. But giving up that control and realizing, okay, I don't actually have control over this. And I'm literally just along for the ride. And so having that perspective, right, I realized what I do have control over. And it was something so much deeper. I was like, I can control my breath. I can control how I react. I can't always control my actions because sometimes those actions are like a traumatic response to something or a fight or flight or this and that. But I can control how I react if I become aware of those actions. And so I was like, okay, I have control over my breath. I have control over my reactions. And so really the only thing that I have control over is something that is so much deeper. And then I started to kind of realize, I went from there, my thought process led me to, like, I started to think about free will. It's like, so how much do we actually have free will and how much don't we have free will? And I'm still along the lines that I, as an individual, as somebody, as someone, as a conscious being, I have some control. But over my body, over the things that happen, no control, no free will over that. And that gets into what does free mean and what does will mean. I'm not going to get into that. I've talked about that before on this channel. But I realized, I was like, there's something, and I just kept thinking about this, and I started going so much deeper and deeper and deeper. And I realized that like what I'd been running from was death. And I had to accept death. And that's not being suicidal. That's not being like wanting death. That's like, death is going to happen. It's going to happen. It could happen tomorrow. It could happen 40 years from now. Who knows? 50, 60 years from now. Who knows? And I was like, that's what I had been running from, and that's what I'd been trying to control. I'd been trying to control change, but that's something else. And instead of trying to control how change is, like, change will take place no matter what, and I have no control over that, and I'm literally just along for the ride. But I realized that I'd been running from death, and death was like this ultimate teacher. I think death was the teacher and fear is kind of like the substitute teacher. That it's like, fear is like that initial symptom, but if you really go back, like if you really go way back, like zoom out, you can see that fear is there's something so much deeper. And it's actually, if you trace that fear further and further back, it's like this fear of death. And I think one step before the fear of death is the fear of being alone, because we're alone when we die. That's just the facts. We are alone when we die. And so a lot of people will address that fear of being alone, but there's one step deeper, and I think that's the fear of death. And so I'd been dealing with the fear of being alone, and I'd been embracing loneliness as part of kind of a whole separate journey that I've been on as well. Just kind of embracing loneliness and also, I think I've talked about that too. I've talked about a lot of things on this channel. But death being that teacher, and then fear being like the teacher ahead of time, like the substitute teacher that's like, hey, I'm leading you to this, and if you accept this, I have so much more to show you. Being death, I have so much more to show you. And it's actually like, you find there's actually so much life in that. It's just it's flip-flop, upside down, backward, forward. It's crazy. But it makes sense. By giving up control, you let go of the things you have no control over, and then you finally see the things that you do have control over, and then you realize how much control you actually have over your life, and you can start to take responsibility for those things. Incredibly powerful. I can say from this experience, and there's more to it that I'm going to keep talking about, but just side note, from this experience, my anxiety has gone down 60 and 70% all the time. I am more happy. I feel joy. I feel contentness more than I ever have in years and years and years from having this experience. But now going back to the experience, the further that I kept going down, and when I was questioning this free will versus determinism thing, and realizing what is determined and what I do have free will over, being my conscious self, I realized once I go deeper and deeper into this thought that there is something deeper than my autonomy. There's something deeper than just my nervous system. There's something deeper than just these thoughts that I have that I can react to. And then I legitimately, you guys know if you've been watching this channel enough, how much I talk about my subjective opinion between the differences between faith and belief. And I think belief is this thing of like knowing and you act it out, and faith is this willingness to be intimate with the unknown. It's this action into the unknown. I think taking this psychedelics was this action of faith, and then a result of that. Now I genuinely, I think I believe. This is crazy. This is crazy for me to say. It's crazy for me to say. I think I believe in a higher self. Like, I think I actually believe that like something deeper than the autonomy that I have, something deep, because when I look at what I don't have control over, and then I realize what I do, I'm like, who is at the seat of this thing? And it's like, it's not really traced anywhere in my body. I just feel it in my breath, and I see it in my thoughts. And like, who is behind, like, noticing, okay, here's traumatized Nate, here's like healthy Nate, here's like good health, bad health, here's like, like who's the one that's picking all of this apart? And who's the one that's at that control center showing me these things? And you could be, oh, that's God. I don't know about that. I don't know about that. But I can definitely say for sure, I think through this experience that I felt my higher self. And I felt unbelievably in control by relinquishing control. And then from that point, relinquishing control, man, God, talk about years of like therapy in the matter of 2 hours. Like it was so much. I had an emotional hangover the next day. Oh, and then from there, I thought it was done. I thought, I was like, that's enough. I feel like I just went through 5 years of therapy in a matter of an hour and a half. And so I was like, okay, I'm done, but I know that the psilocybin is still in my system. I'm just gonna do some yoga. Oh man. I stood up to do some yoga, and I let me tell you, through this experience, I felt awakened to my higher self. I feel like my higher self woke up. It's been asleep. I have been asleep for years and years and years, and I started seeing everybody else that's asleep. And I was about to go into like the first like yoga pose, and I just stopped. I stopped, and I just started crying uncontrollably at the it was this realization of awakening that there's other people that are asleep. They're like, I'm sorry, I didn't know that this was gonna happen. It's like other people are asleep, and I can only do what I can do and tell my stories and share the things that I've learned. But it's like I can't wake. I have no control over that, and I felt this burden of awakening, and it was terrifying and beautiful, and I fell on the floor, and I was just wailing, legitimately wailing like a child, and like holding myself, like hugging myself, and it was, I can't even express to you the feelings that I felt. It was, I could feel myself, like the ego dying. It's hard to put into words. And it was the most freeing experience I've ever experienced, but it was, I felt the weight of awakening, and I felt the responsibility that has for me and whatever purpose that I have. And it was an incredibly life-changing moment that I'm still processing it. God, I'm a mess. And it happened before my birthday, which was August 19th, and I'll never forget it. I'll never forget it. And I'm still processing. It's like I haven't taken that much of a dosage since, because I'm still processing everything, and I can feel so much changing, and I feel like a new person, but I feel like the same person that's just been awakened. Oh man, I don't know what to say now, because I'm kind of a mess. This is the first time I've told the full story to anyone, and I've just, stuff is happening, stuff is changing in my life. I feel peace. I feel joy, happiness. I feel in control because I gave it up. I feel more alive because a part of me died that day. I don't, and I've let go of so much. And I'm just like, I'm still processing. But I wanted to share that much of kind of, my absence and things that I've been working through, and yeah, so there's a lot more to come. There's a lot more to come, and it's all good things. So thank you for watching. Thank you for listening to my stories, and you know, you guys are incredible. You all are incredible. I can't wait to see where things go from here. I don't know what it looks like. I feel like I'm getting used to a new life. I'm getting used to a new me. And I've just realized through this that I really do create my own reality. And I can see it. I can see things so clearly. And I can feel things so clearly. I hope this spoke to somebody. And yeah, so if you like this video, please like, subscribe, share to whoever you feel like needs it. And but if I haven't uploaded for a while, if I don't upload for a while, I'm still processing, and but I'm gonna share. Of course, I'm gonna share. So I'm documenting now. This is me documenting the things I'm learning in my life. That's what this channel has always been about. So, likes, subscribe, share. I'll see y'all real soon. Peace.